こいつは特徴的なシンクのアーマー、二振りの赤い剣、燃えるような紅色の髪、何より高度なあの刺繍。
デニスはね、元銀翼の大隊、私の相棒みたいなもんよ。相棒みたいなもんよ、みたいなもんよ、みたいなもんよ。
Outcast Restaurant episode number 4. And you know, my friends, I really love that this show, I feel, is like carved out for us. Like it's like our little gem, like our little hidden gem this season that frankly I see nobody talking about online. So hopefully you guys are, you know, come in here and, you know, comment below and tell other people to watch it, and maybe share on Twitter, you know, go tell people, hey, go watch Welcome to Outcast Restaurant, or if you're on any socials or TikTok or whatever, like let more people know about Welcome to the Outcast Restaurant, because I think this is just so good. It's so wholesome, it's not fast paced, and it's just really good. So this episode was all focused around a mage girl named 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐵, or 𝐒𝐻𝐵. It's either like Rachel, like is but with the B, like, you know, Rachel, 𝐒𝐻𝐵. Or it's 𝐒𝐻𝐵. We'll go with 𝐒𝐻𝐵. It sounds a little more fancy. But 𝐒𝐻𝐵 was basically a young girl who was like a village girl and had a lot of talent to be a mage. Was able to leave the village and go to the capital and attend the mage school. And she was able to excel a lot, so much so that she joined the faculty, and then later on joined one of the top ranking parties in the capital, or, you know, in this place's capital, right? Not the capital, but like, you know, this town, like the main people of this town. And she signed a shitty contract, and they've been working her to the bone, and she's been a slave, and she's been doing like accounting and workbooking, and she goes out and adventures with them, and it leads her to eventually eat at Dennis's restaurant, and she comes across Vivia and Henrietta, you know, who kind of take an interest in her, as well as Atelier. And long story short, because you guys watched the episode, I don't want to recap the whole effing thing. She decides that she's going to kill herself. Like, she's going to off herself. And Vivia and Henrietta, they save her, bring her to Dennis's restaurant. Atelier gives her a pep talk. Then, you know, the guys that are you know, Dennis goes and brings the guys who are doing the thing, and they tear up the contract because our favorite flame red hair girl, Katie, comes in to get her man's Dennis. So, I mean, overall, like, just the concept, the setup, the fact that now it's like we started off, episode 1 was all about Atelier. Episode 2 was all about Henrietta. Episode 3 is about Vivia. Episode 4 is about 𝐒𝐻𝐵. And then Katie also came into this episode as well. So it's like it's curating like these little like micro stories for us, all centered around Dennis. And I just think that's just so good, you know, as he kind of builds his customer base, as his customer base kind of like builds relationships with each other, right? You have to imagine at some point Henrietta and Vivia and, you know, probably 𝐒𝐻𝐵 will begin like their own little party, and maybe Dennis is like the main guy who, like, you know, if they really need him, he can go out and help. And then as Atelier can get older, you know, she could probably join that. And then if Katie ends up leaving the past party she was a part of and stays here because, you know, her man's is here, you know, that introduces a whole new thing. But I love everything. The only thing that, and this episode did do it better, right? Because they did 2 daily specials, and the daily specials involved shrimp. It did do a better job this episode of giving us a little more food focus. But unlike other anime, right, where we had like the cooking anime in another world, you know, with the guy with his wolf, and, you know, he's making meals, you know, it's very food oriented, right? We don't need a food wars, you know, thing to make us go you know, about food, but I would like just I wish they had a little more focus on the food. I think that like that would make it just like, that would just be like the little dab of salt on the top. That's really my only gripe, and I think that's a very minor one. And it's just because it's centered around food. It would be nice to be like, okay, yeah, it's centered around food, and we're getting some like food chord, you know what I mean? Because like I think that would be cool. But regardless, even without that, there is still a minor focus on food. You know, he is the cook. But really where it thrives is the curation of different characters that it's introducing, as you know, kind of as Dennis being like the main magnet to all of them, which I just think is really cool. And Atelier continues to be the cutest character this season in any anime, I think. And I love how she's grown into her own, so much so that she was able to give this Bashel character a pep talk about how, yeah, she's like, yeah, I was a slave. I wanted to die too. I know exactly where you're coming from, but like, your next step is go eat an incredible meal, and let's just, you know, rethink life after that. And she's like, if you still want to do what you want to do, like, it's your life, you know. And I was like, God dang, Atelier. And then the funny scene with her coming out of the bath, just like all naked, and Dennis is like, yo, what are you doing, dude? Like, freaking towel, bro. And I thought it was just a cute, it was a cute scene, and it's a very father-daughter, you know, scene. It's a very like a scene. It's a scene that's really represented well. Like, that's something that happens with your kids all the time, because they just don't like, I'll just air dry. You're like, no, dude, like, you're in the middle of my restaurant. What do you mean you're gonna air dry? You're completely naked. Like, it's not okay. Like, you're this little kid. Like, go put an effing towel. So I thought it was really cute and wholesome. Some folks might interpret it a different way. I hope that's not true. I think it was just a really wholesome father-daughter, you know, father-kid moment. And I was like, that's a real moment that every parent has experienced. And if you don't have kids, then you were probably the kid that did that to your parents at some point. So anyways, fantastic episode. I think this was a easy slam dunk, 8 out of 10. Another great week of Outcast Restaurant. And again, like I said at the beginning, it's like this little carved out little gem for us that we're just like, if you decide to give it a shot, I think we're just eating really good in more ways than one. All right, my friends, I'm going to see you guys next week for episode number 5. All right, you guys have a good one. Peace.